I'm just recording myself. Basically, I believe that every business or business in as at its essence or the life cycle of a business tends to follow a predictable and repeated pattern, right? In terms of the
Mm-hmm.
trackway or the pathway of its evolution. So I liken it to work to the metaphor of a farmer cultivating a tree, right? So the first stage is what I call a seedling, right? The farmer just put a seed in the ground, right? And he has maybe watered it, but it hasn't bloomed yet. And this is the stage of business when or the stage in development when a business someone doesn't know what they want to do. They don't have a strong idea of the service or product, but they have a general sense of maybe the industry or what that may
Mm-hmm.
look like in like a really rough sense in terms of
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll be giving people lemonade or okay, I'll be like massaging people. They kind of just have a flash vision of something that
Mm-hmm.
will generate them income, right? But they don't have it fleshed out. Then the next
Got it.
stage is what I call a fledgling, and this is when
Mm-hmm.
the seed has bloomed now, and you can actually start seeing signs of what will become a leaf, right? And this is when someone has like a solid service or product to offer, but they don't have maybe a strong idea of who their
Mm-hmm.
ideal
Great.
customer
Yeah.
audience base is, right? They don't
Absolutely.
know who,
Absolutely.
they don't know what that what you call the ideal customer avatar looks like, and the profiling that goes about that is regarding the general demographics or psychographics or geopolitical or economical details of the person that will be giving them their money is blank, right? Then the next stage is what I call a sapling, and this is when now the leaf has taken form and it has actually started to build roots, right? This is when a business actually has a service and a product,
So
and
why?
they actually have started the process of discovering who their ideal
Mm,
customer avatar is, right? Maybe they
mm,
don't have all the details, but at least they have a picture, a face to the name, right? Those and I say that explicitly and intentionally because it's actually a strong metric to actually
mm,
like a signal of progress, an indicator of things to come, right? Having a name and a face is so far along than not even knowing what the person you want to serve looks like or what his
right,
name or the melody that will be the thing that by which you reference him, which is what we colloquially call name, is, right?
right.
Then the next stage is what I call you can call it somewhat of a flower or a leaf, because what at this point there's roots. The roots are firmly in plant or in
Yeah,
position,
it's need to be connected with the roots, right?
right? The roots are in. It has connected to the eco hub of water and minerals and vitamins, and now it's actually starting to expand, right? So it's starting to like
Yes,
stretch
absolutely.
its wings, and this is when you have
Also,
a customer
yeah,
avatar. You have an ID. You actually have an ideal customer audience base. So this is kind of talking about advertising and that sort. You have a product and service, but you may not have all the parts that is required to an essential business operations. So you may not have a sound process or protocol when it comes to
mm,
security and safeguard, or you may not have a
mm,
sound and repeatable process for lead generation or traffic or lead conversion, right? Or you may not have
mm,
even a protocol or process when it comes to post transaction relationship management, right? Like
right.
cultivating a relationship beyond the point of sale to where now you can become friends and even generate or keep continuing the process of building more opportunities for business in the future, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
those are the things that is occurring at this stage. Then the next stage is an actual flower, and this is when you actually have those things. You have a customer
mm,
avatar, you have an ideal audience base,
mm,
you have a product and service, and you have those pieces that I mentioned in mind. But what is key between this stage and the next is that although you have those fundamental pieces, you are not you're not moving in such a way that they're moving in tandem with one another. Meaning they haven't been integrated in such a way to where if someone walked in today, it could literally be pulled out to where a machine could do everything. Meaning, you haven't engineered the process to where it could essentially be automated, right? So now this is essentially the etchlings of scale, right? Like, so looking long term and gearing yourself up for volume and bandwidth, regardless, or really depending on the contextuality of what you're doing. So if you're in e-commerce, this is talking about like scale when it comes to a server, right? Like, do you have a server that can handle volume? When it comes to a brick and mortar, like a manufacturing factory, do you have space enough that can handle a lot of not only a lot of equipment of the same thing, but maybe even like a hangar that can hold a variety of different equipments, those kind of things, right? Then the next level, as you probably have sussed out, is the tree, right? And this is when like you have those things. You have a customer, you have an ideal customer avatar, you have an ideal customer audience, you have the essentials of a business, and they're working in tandem with one another. They're all integrating, meaning you could actually, on some level, automate this. But the key distinction between this and being, you can call it a Buddha tree or an oak tree, which Nirvana, if you want. I'm really like spiritual in that way. Is that when it comes to particular key operations, let's take for example a cybersecurity protocol, right? When someone is talking about building a business continuity plan, making sure that their business is working, there are certain situations where it is clear that the overall layout or the framework by which these protocols are built is not sound for a long-term, self-sustainable, self-cultivated, self-curating type of operation. Meaning, it's as if you're constantly having to deploy capital to fix things that commonly appear over and over and over again, right? So in the case of business continuity, maybe this is like having to essentially always have to hire an extra buy an extra server because when shit shuts down, you're still like left there because you have nothing in place that is making sure to where there's a backup server running in the process and there's a smooth switch between your primary server and your backup server, right? When we're talking about a brick and mortar, the product, the manufacturing factory, for example, when there is an equipment that breaks down, you're constantly finding yourself essentially trying on a new contract technician company because for one reason or the other, the contract company that you were working with last time you called them are not equipped to handle this current failure, right? Due to the sheer dynamic ability of the spectrum of and myriad of equipment that you have. Since you have all types of equipment, they're not able to like. Every time you call them, you feel like it's a hit and miss. Like you don't know if you're actually gonna be able to be serviced by them, right?
Absolutely.
If we're talking about e-commerce, maybe you're constantly finding yourself having to find a new supplier in terms of the fabric for the material for a shirt, for example, and a graphic designer because for one reason or the other, when you're launching into a new nuance or niche space market for like going from maybe like gym shirts to like pop art shirts that you can wear in the nightlife, he's not able to accurately acclimate to the change in like variance and design in pixel resolution in even just the way you have to go about doing it, the tool set, etc. Right? So there's
we need to them to understand and expect how what is the current the projects, right? And what is the current market for the graphic design?
Wait, can you say that again? I'm sorry. I'm so bad at English. So I have a hard time comprehending people. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, what I'm saying that we have to inform that what is about the graphic design about that, right? And what is the current situation in the market, and how can you promote your business or manufacture things in a real market, right? So using this our graphic design and website development instrument.
Exactly. it's like they constantly find themselves having
We have
to
to guide
try
them.
a
We
new
have to guide them.
consultant because they have to the way that they've been going about their strategy of promoting
Yeah,
themselves, it's
yeah, yeah.
very laser focused or like tailored to just one thing, and it's not all
Mm-hmm.
encompassing enough in as a
Yep.
way that there is an actual concrete and recurring and all pervading motif in,
Yep.
if you
Yep.
want,
Yep.
the narrative that is the storytelling of their content, right? So their message is not
Mm.
like, it's not like soundproof in the sense that it's like nice and waveform flush, but it's kind of like
Absolutely.
uh, bits and pieces
Each and topic
interspersed.
we have to describe on that how your business going on the top and how you can do you will be made a billionaire or millionaire or whatever you are considered in a business.
Actually, that's a good point. So, like for example, for Laravel, right? Like, so a lot of most of the companies that hire or still use PHP as a primary driver to their development project are companies
Mm.
who are doing a lot of database management, right? So the
Yeah.
fact that PHP sits between HTML, which is the web interfacing, or the
Mm.
user interaction technology, right? And if
Mm.
you want to put it SQL, and even if you're old school Perl, going back even further, or if you can't even talk about the OS, right? Like Bash, like spaghetti languages, like oh man, what is that?
Java you can
No,
say
no,
that
no, no,
Java
no,
the
no, no,
Python
not Java, but
Magento.
there is a, I think it's called J-type, something like that. Not JavaScript,
Yeah, yeah.
J-type,
JavaScript,
or
JavaScript.
it's like
Yeah, yeah.
a JSON variant essentially.
JSON, yeah,
So like
absolutely.
those are,
It's
that's
also
why they
it's
essentially use PHP, because it's able to
yeah,
just do the back and forth between the front end and the back end so fluidly.
yeah.
So in this sense, in kind of what I'm talking about, these are people who are constantly seeing the need for switching layers in development. And if you think about it, this is because there is not a proper conversation in terms of alignment of not just design when it comes to what the
Mm-hmm.
user sees, but also
Mm-hmm.
in data infrastructure and like packet transmission. Because think about it, if you're constantly having to self manage the way that your router routes to first the point of contact, the gateway hub, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then also then the server that is in charge of not just pulling up the assets, so like pictures, images, files, and text that make up a file, but then
Right.
also bridging together the JavaScript, the CSS, like the appearance coding for it, then on some
Mm-hmm.
level, you're essentially suffering from a lack of understanding of what your
Mm.
application actually does, right? Okay. Another way that I put it is this, right? One of the greatest
Even
things, one of the reasons that Facebook is such a master at like the social networking game is because from the
mm,
get, they knew that we are trying to put faces to the names of the people that we're connecting with online, right? At the time,
yep.
it was just MySpace, right, which was literally just another iteration of the web. You could call it Web 1.0 or Web 2.0, depending on what perspective. So if you're coming from like the CMS, Adobe Dreamweaver to HTML to Adobe Dreamweaver to CMS aspect, that's version like 1.0, 1.5. If you're coming from
Mm.
the Craigslist to like Bing to like Google aspect, where we're talking about information retrieval, right, and data mining, that's like Web 2.0, right? So it depends on what perspective of development you're coming from. But what I'm saying is the product that is Facebook was such a game changer because the simplicity of the user interaction with the interface that took care of the networking was so streamlined from top to bottom. They used JavaScript from top to bottom. From the moment when someone was developing an applet for the when someone was building the page for the login, right, to when someone was building an API for the connection portals where it's like signing with Facebook, to when someone was building the helper functions for the send a friend request, to even the moment when someone was building the generators that deal with people you may know, right? They always use the same technology, and that consistency made it to where across the board, everything was streamlined. So when it came down to like management and maintenance, it was next to nothing because from the get, the understanding was okay, everything that we're doing is going to be hand to hand combat, and what we're going to do is node at a time. You build the login page, you build the registration page, you build the user profile page, you build the newsfeed page, and everything that we're gonna be doing when it comes to actually presenting it to the user is gonna be done in such a sequential, in such a logically sequential form to where you
Mm.
we won't have to worry about data transmission. So if I show you register first, then you register, then I show you your user profile, then I show you your newsfeed, everything becomes
Mm.
automatic because now you don't have to worry about different branches that don't have conducive paths, right? So if you're a
Yeah.
computer scientist or a
Mm.
computer engineer, we're essentially talking about the tree data structure and the node data structure, right? The node data structure, you can think about it, if you scaffold it down to 2D, it's just a linked list, right? So this to next. And if you use that same approach and you make it to where, okay, the next thing is the registration, then the next thing is the account, then the next thing is the news feed. Now I don't have to worry about some weird off tangent loop that is due to like giving the user too many options and them suffering from information overload. Because now I've just done the work of helping them come to the best decision when it comes to
Do
the
you?
navigation of my website.
Yeah.
So that's kind
Yeah.
of why
And, do you?
oftentimes those PHP
One thing.
projects.
One thing. One thing. One thing. Do you have the past projects or something else?
Say what?
Do you have something past project samples?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because in this sense I'm so embarrassed. It's not only, it's only like maybe about 4 or 5 years ago that I actually realized that, oh shit, I should probably keep like an Akashic records of everything that I've done. That way I can just kind of
Mm-hmm.
have that as a way of landing gigs, right? So there's a whole
Mm-hmm.
bunch of stuff that I've done in the
So any
past that I just
any
didn't.
any any activities in
Yeah,
there?
but
Can I see that?
if you go to github.com/ master hyphen Steven, you'll see some of the things that I was able to pull. So, for example, I created a parking garage administration management system that
Mm-hmm.
essentially takes care of the ticket disseminating, order handling, ticket management
Mm-hmm.
for a parking garage.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually plan on building a
Steven,
UI for it and selling it at some point or licensing it.
I'll yeah, I'll put you some of it. Can you send me all the CVs and all the details in that? So I will be show my team and we can conduct the projects in very soon.
Absolutely. And like I said, if you go to stephenwanji.com, OU, Stephen with a V,
Can you can you
OUANDJ.
share me? Yeah, can you share me the text message if you don't mind?
Yeah. Actually, what is your number? Before we forget. Uh,
Info.
yeah. Like, hold on. Let me.
I'll drop you message. I'll drop you.